Hello everyone. So I was getting a lot of comments about how to do certain parts of our TED Talk up to this point. This could be writing our body paragraphs, this could be writing our story, this could be writing our Beyond Boundaries statement. I have been looking through a lot of your paragraphs up to this point, and there is a lot of the same common mistakes. So we are going to go through how to write a TED Talk together in real time so that you can fall back on this video and understand certain aspects of what I am asking for. So the first part of our TED Talk is the intro. We have already all written an introduction together one-on-one. So I am not worried about your intro being bad. So in this case, I have already copied and pasted my intro, which is something I shared with the older class. I can't remember if I shared it with the younger class or not, but we're still going to identify the different parts of the introduction so that we know how and where we want to insert our story when the time comes. But first, we're going to do this in the order that we've done it in class. This is going to be a really long review, essentially. So I'm going to highlight the different elements. Your hook, if you remember, is the attention getter. It's what grabs the audience's attention. For a lot of you, this looks like a question. For some of you, it's a story. Next is our personal connection. So what does this mean about you? Why are you interested? What's a story you've had? Yada, yada. General outline. So this is what I've been calling it, but some of you might have heard me say subtopics. What are you going to talk about in your speech? What are your 3 points? For some of you, it's 4 or 5 points, but this is the general outline, and that's what I mean by that. And the reason why I'm spending a little bit extra time explaining what this means is because knowing what your subtopics are make it really easy to incorporate things in your story, to know how to write your body paragraphs, etc., etc. And then lastly is your XYZ statement. X is your personal connection, so again, something about you. Y is the challenge in perspective, and lastly, Z is the universal lesson. So what can anybody at any stage in their life learn how to do? For example, I understand some of you really like hockey or basketball or dance, but you are not teaching the audience how to play basketball, how to play hockey, how to dance. You're teaching us some universal skill that you learned from hockey, from basketball, from dance. So here is the example intro that I have given across my classes. So we're going to start with my hook. When the internet started gaining popularity, when I was the age of most of my students now, there was one thing that always topped headlines and pierced algorithms week after week after week. That was the era of cat videos. There was one cat in particular that became so popular and so famous that she had memes, movies, and even Christmas specials featuring her image. Her name was Tartar Sauce. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of blank stares from the room. Perhaps you know her by her more common alias, Grumpy Cat. I now know, after giving this several times, that you don't know what Grumpy Cat is, but I'm going to keep what I have written. Ah, now I see the light bulbs, and probably the gears turning to ask yourself, was Grumpy Cat a girl? I could have sworn he was a boy. As someone who was and still is obsessed with cats, I started to wonder why the rest of the world found the same fascination with our furry friends, and why so many of us were so sure that a certain famous feline was so unquestionably male. This is my personal connection, because I am interested in cats, and I was and I still am interested in cats. So now, this is what I did, and it turns into my general outline. It's not what I did yet, but it's what we're going to do together today. I started to research how humans as far back as the ancient Egyptians worshipped cats, and how this same idolization affects our perception of gender. So this is how the idolization of cats how idolization in general affects our perception of gender. That's going to be my first body paragraph. Perhaps how we can change it. Oh, I'm sorry. My first body paragraph is talking about the ancient Egyptians and why they worshipped cats. My second body paragraph is about how this idolization affects our perception of gender. My third body paragraph is how can we change it to be more comprehensive of other animals and other identities, so now bringing in that kind of human connection. And why is this beneficial in 2026? So we do want to have a human connection because we are teaching to an audience of humans, and there is guaranteed going to be a good chunk of people in that audience who really do not care about cats. So we need to make it something that anybody can use. So what I am giving so far, even though I've been talking about cats and I've been obsessed with cats in my intro, I am going to talk about how idolization patterns affect gender and what can we do differently to be able to shape our perspective differently and be able to handle things with care. And then lastly, here's my XYZ statement. X, being a longtime enthusiast of cats, that's my personal connection. I question how idolization culture has affected viewpoints. That's my challenge in perspective, and how we can shape them to be more inclusive altogether. That is my X, Y, and Z statement. So currently, there is no story in my introduction. It's just the introduction. Now, for those of you who were 4th grade and younger, and for some of you brave folk who didn't, or some brave people learned the more advanced version, but for all of you, I gave a simple structure of a topic sentence, 4 details, and a conclusion. But I've decided to break it down a little bit more so that maybe it can help you see where maybe it'll be easier for you to incorporate in your own and think of those 4 details. So first, with the topic sentence, we want to introduce that subtopic. So in my case, that would be ancient Egyptians and why they worshipped cats. Detail 1, I want to know what piece of evidence you have to support your claim. So info, website, author, date. Remember. Detail 2, in your own words, what does this piece of evidence mean? Like, I don't understand this piece of evidence. Why do we have it? Why is this important for people? Not just animals, not just for your topic. Like, why should I learn what you are sharing? Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Detail 4, give a real world example. I want a real world example anyway, and I haven't gotten that from a lot of you. I didn't really talk about it yet, but I want a real world example. So think about how anyone at any age can do your thing. So how can somebody apply these skills at work, at home, at school, those things? And then lastly, a conclusion, which is a summarization in 1 sentence. So for some of you, you learned other styles, which we will do again together today. Bear with me. Okay. So we don't want highlights anymore. We're going to write the paragraph together. Okay. To understand and change our perspective on gender roles, on gender and its roles, we first have to look at the ancient Egyptians and their idolization culture. All right, we're going to do some research really quickly. So now let's go to Google. Google is fine, but citing Google is not. So we're going to go to Google. And I want to know, Why did the ancient Egyptians worship cats? Are we going to use the AI overview? No, because it's AI. Cats rule in ancient Egypt. That seems to answer my question. I'm going to click on it. It is not by a wiki. It's not by an AI. It is a separate link. So it seems good to click on. Okay, there is not much here, but sorry, these should likely from just them in jewels and fed them treats like royalty. When the cats died, they were mummified. So in the morning, ancient Egyptians worshipped many animals for thousands of years. Animals were revered for different reasons. Dogs were valued for their ability to protect and hunt, but cats were thought to be the most special. Egyptians believed cats were magical creatures capable of bringing good luck to the people who housed them. Maybe we could talk. I want to find something about gender. Only one deity, the goddess named Bastet, had the power to become a cat. Okay, so I want to do. This is the information I want to pull. So we're going to come down here. According to National Geographic Kids, because that's where I got this information from, Egyptians believed cats were magical creatures capable of bringing good luck to the people who housed them. In fact, I want to also include this information about the deity. Only one deity, the goddess named Bastet, had the power to become a cat. And I got this from National Geographic Kids, which I've already mentioned. It was written by Donna Jo Napoli. Donna Jo Napoli in 2013. And obviously this is my information. So Napoli 2013. Okay, so now I have detail 1. Detail 2, put it in my own words. What does this evidence mean? So even though cats were the most revered, no, not even though. Cats were the most revered animal in ancient Egypt, and they still believed only a woman goddess could come back as such a worshipped animal. So I explain this in my own words. Why is this important for people? This is an important foundation to show that cats were treated like royalty, which will be more important later. But they still associated them with female. So where did this with female? What? With females. Okay. So that's my detail 4. And then conclusion, I'm going to conclusion, kind of summarizing this all together. Cats and deities were worshipped side by side in ancient Egypt, but they were still leaning female. So this is going to be just a link that I'm adding to go into the next. No, I want still leaning female. This is going to be a link to help get into the next paragraph. So why do we associate males with those of royalty? Oh, actually, I kind of like this as my topic sentence for the next one. Okay, so let's analyze this first paragraph here. To understand and change our perspective on gender and its roles, we first have to look at the ancient Egyptians and their idolization culture. That is my topic sentence. According to National Geographic Kids, Egyptians believed cats were magical creatures capable of bringing good luck to the people who housed them. In fact, only one deity, the goddess named Bastet, had the power to become a cat. This is my detail 1. Okay. Cats were the most revered animal in ancient Egypt, and they still believed only a woman goddess could come back as such a powerful worshipped animal. This is my detail 2. This is an important foundation to show that cats were treated like royalty, which will be more important later, but they still associated them with females. This is my detail 3. Cats and deities. Oh, hold on, I need a detail. Oh, I need a real world example. See? This is why we check. A real world example. In the real world, how do I want to write this? In the real world, looking at a real world scenario. What's a real world? So work, home, school. This might be seen at school. Think of the gender of a generic grade 2 teacher. Think of the gender of an English teacher. What do you see? Is it male or female? Now think of the prime minister or the president. Is that male or female? Even though teachers hold an authority role, they are far lower than that of the political leader mentioned before. Of the political, so you might be seeing women as, seeing teachers as women and political leaders, we'll see, government officials as men. Cats and deities were worshipped side by side in ancient Egypt, but they were still leaning female despite their notoriety. So why do we associate males with those of royalty and authority? Okay. So this is going to be my detail 4 and my real world connection. And this is going to be my conclusion. Okay. Now let's analyze what a second body paragraph looks like using TPACK. So we have a topic sentence introducing the topic, evidence, paraphrase, put in your own words, analysis. We're going to use the 5Y example. And then a conclusion. And we also want to include a real world example in our analysis. So why do we associate males with those of royalty? Why do we assume authority figures are male? So we're not going to use Reddit. We're not going to use AI. We're not going to use Quora. Godly women don't teach or exercise authority over men. We don't really want to use scripture. The authority gap. Why women are still taken less seriously. So we can do this than men. Well, how do I get this to go away? There we go. Look. Okay. Women leaders clearly reacted more quickly and decisively in the fact of potential fatalities. Leadership measures perceptions of equality for men in leadership in the. So why are women still taken less seriously than men when it comes to leadership? Marianne is an expert journalist broadcaster. She explains that from a young age, gender norms create social rules and expectations of how men and women should be. This about leadership default to traditional stereotypes about masculine behavior and these beliefs are then used to make judgments about women at work. Yes. So there's what happens when they go beyond it, and then there's the authority, there's the traditional stereotypes about masculine behavior and these beliefs. Does this really fit? Yeah. Okay, so according in an article written for Forbes, who's the author? Let's see who the author is. Dr. Michelle Penelope King. King writes, did I not copy it? And this was written in October 26, 2021. Okay. So why do we associate males with those of royalty and authority? In an article written by Forbes, Dr. Michelle Penelope King writes, beliefs about leadership default to traditional stereotypes about masculine behavior, and these beliefs are then used to make judgments about women at work. So paraphrase, putting in my own words, because of traditional gender roles, which usually apply to men being the man of the house, are part of the reason why we assume men are better fit for authority roles. Analysis. So why do we assume men are better fit for authority roles? We assume, we're going to do this separately. We assume men are better fit for authority roles because of their role in the household. Why did men get this role in the household? Probably because they're naturally stronger. And yeah, probably because they're naturally stronger. Why are they naturally stronger? Because they have higher testosterone. So why do we assume that men are the ones becoming famous or behind, the ones behind like viral videos and viral characters, viral memes, etc.? We assume this because they are traditionally the ones responsible for making decisions, and maybe being a bit impulsive. Why does being impulsive matter in this context? Because I feel like impulsiveness equals like internet fame. Okay, so we gotta make sentences out of these to be able to give you my analysis. Men are given this authority stereotype because of their traditional roles in the home, which were originally awarded because of a man's natural increase in testosterone and strength. because of this label to lead the house and the family, they are seen as the ones responsible for making clear decisions and maybe even being a bit impulsive to avoid, avoid that feeling of time running out on an important situation. This impulsive behavior can be related to social media and what it takes to become viral. So, real world example now. A real world example of why men are viewed this way. So, think about your dad at home. Has he ever made an impulsive decision and you just accepted that behavior because it makes sense? Now think of your little sister. She does something similar, but it's seen as immature and reckless. So understanding those, so this is now my conclusion, wrapping it all up together. Understanding those authority roles in the household helps us understand our gender perceptions in the real world. I want to say somewhere, maybe think about that previous teacher example. Maybe the fact that teachers are associated with childcare more than authority is why they are traditionally thought to be. So I'm actually going to put this before. I guess this is another real world example. Okay, so what this looks like with TPAC. Here is my topic sentence. So why do we associate males with those of royalty and authority? In an article written by Forbes, my evidence, because of traditional gender roles. So this is my paraphrase. This is my analysis. It's like all of this beautiful analysis. We love it. And then lastly, this is my conclusion. Did I highlight these in colors? Of course not. So you can see it now. Topic, evidence, paraphrase. Yellow, analysis, conclusion. Okay, I'm going to get rid of my 5Y. I'm going to put this, I'm going to put this above this paragraph so we can see it. Okay. Now, third body paragraph. I also gave you Peel. For the sake of my sanity and this video, we're not going to do this body paragraph because it's basically the same thing as up here, but instead of this yellow for the paraphrase, it would just go in the green for explanation. Okay, fourth body paragraph. Another one I gave you is star. So star is a little different. So situation. So now we're giving like a real world example. Set the scene, when and where, task, conflict or challenge, action, what did you, where did these colors come from? I like my rainbow. Action, what did you do? And result, what were the results of that action? Okay, So now if I'm using this with my fourth body paragraph, which in this case is why is this beneficial in 2026, all of this information bestowed upon you is beneficial in 2026 because we are starting to challenge those gender norms, but we might still be facing some subconscious biases. Okay. We still need a topic sentence when it comes to STAR, and we still need a conclusion. So now let me give you an example. Let me give you an example. Growing up in the United States, actually, how do I want to do this? Okay. I used to work for a company called Asia in Northeast Ohio. At this company, I was responsible for teaching victims of domestic violence. At this company, I was responsible for teaching victims of immigrant victims, specifically, Southeast Asian immigrant victims of domestic violence, financial literacy. A big part of, since this job was part of the public sector, it was publicly funded. A common grant in the United States is anything to do with VAWA. If you're unfamiliar with VAWA, this is the Violence Against Women Act. So task. So that was the situation. I used to work at Asia Incorporated in Northeast Ohio. This is what I was responsible for doing at this company. And one of the common grants that we got was VAWA. And it also helped with like a common grant. Yeah, in the United States is anything to do with VAWA. Common grant in the United States for this sector. Particular sector is anything to do with VAWA. There was also VAWA visas, etc. Now the task, which was the conflict or the challenge. Most of our clients were women, but the few who were men told us some shocking details. First, men feel weaker and like they can't speak up. When it comes to applying for funding from VAWA, even though men, when it comes to applying, men are hesitant to apply. This comes from the name alone. The name suggests that the act only supports women when, in fact, it supports all domestic violence victims of all genders. Obviously, the desired action would be to change the name, but that's not the case that we have here. The actions I did take, though, when I was working at this company, to get the word out, I made some multilingual pamphlets and videos to help spread this information. I also worked booths at festivals and local events to answer questions, to help others be informed. I also hung flyers in both bathrooms and not just the women's bathroom to give a safe number to call. So these are the actions I took. As a result, we had slightly more male clients that we were able to provide services for. Like I said with STAR, we still need a topic and a conclusion. So the conclusion is basically like, if we take the time to actively include males in female-dominated spaces and females in male-dominated ones, we can help keep the Earth the planet informed of their capabilities and help everyone reach their potential and just overall be happier and work together. I know this is a run-on sentence, but dang. Okay, so this is my topic sentence. I didn't give that a color. Let me give you an example. I used to work for a company, so this is my situation. Situation. Boom. Task. This is the conflict. This is the actions. These are the actions I took. These are the results of those actions. This is an example of this. Okay, conclusion. We are not writing the conclusion yet. You have made it this far. Let's keep going. This shows you that you can write this in like an hour. But of course, I've been doing this way longer than you. So maybe it'll take you a little longer. But hopefully this helps you so much. Okay, common questions I was getting with the story. How do you write it? I don't understand. This doesn't make sense. So what I want you to do, and some common problems I saw was I got a different story per paragraph. And sometimes it was a little more telly and not showy. So how do we show and not tell? First, we pick a character. It can be you, your friend, your parent, somebody you made up. The story does not have to be real. Then we need a conflict of some sort that we're going to face. And then we got to stick to a timeline. It needs to go in order. So let's, in my intro, let me think about a story. Let me think of a good story. When I was younger, my parents were a part of the boomer generation. In this generation, it was very common for women to stay home and take care of the kids, cook, clean, and essentially do all the household chores. Men were expected to get a good salary, stay educated, and take care of the outdoor chores. Growing up, I never questioned that my mom made dinner and my dad mowed the lawn. However, one day, one Saturday morning in grade 4, I really wanted to go outside and help Dad pick up sticks before he mowed the lawn. My heart sank when he told me my mom needed help scrubbing the floor, and he took my brother instead. So this is somewhere that can go in my intro. It can go in the beginning, the middle, or the end. Then in my first body paragraph, what was my first body paragraph about? Oh, it was the ancient Egyptians and idolization. Looking back at the story where I had to stay inside and help my mom despite wanting to go outside and help my dad, I realized, looking back, that I didn't do it. What my dad said was the law in the house. We just listened to him. I knew growing up that I would never be the one to rule the house. That would be my future husband's job. And this kind of relates now to the deity. Now, moving forward, my next point was on why do men have these roles. My dad was a strong individual. I didn't need to question that he would be way better at picking up sticks than I was. I didn't need to question that he would be way better at picking up sticks than I was. I knew, too, that I had a finer eye for details than my brother did, so I'd be able to help my mom with the grout on the kitchen floor better than anyone else. I understood that my brother and I, my mom and my dad, and even my friends and their siblings, I don't know, had different skill sets. But I wonder if I would have been able to get stronger if I just picked up sticks from a young age. Would I have been, maybe my brother would have been able to learn how to, maybe my brother would have been able to learn how to see finer details. Now that I'm a mom myself, I'm not a mom, I should clarify, I'm not a mom, but I'm making up a story. I don't think any of my students should call themselves a parent, should also clarify. Now that I'm a mom myself, I try to teach both my son and my daughter how to do inside and outside chores. So that's my third paragraph. Lastly, in this day and age, it's a lot harder to live off of one income. So it's better to share all chores. Information is so much more easily accessible to with the internet. So it's much easier to learn a new skill and share that experience with others, so there aren't other little girls who feel ashamed for wanting to pick up sticks. Okay, so now we gotta insert this somewhere. I'm gonna take this story, oops, I'm gonna put this in my intro somewhere, about cats. I actually feel like this could go really good. Maybe like right here. I want to touch on this, so I'm adding in a little bit of a filler so it doesn't feel just plopped in there, because when I was younger, so now what's my second part of my story? This goes in my first body paragraph somewhere. Okay, first body paragraph. I feel like this would go really good here. And then I could say this might also be seen at school. Okay, now my next part of my story goes in my second body paragraph. I think I'm going to put it in the middle of my analysis here. I didn't write a third body paragraph with you guys. Sorry. Let's just assume it goes between evidence and explanation. And then lastly, my fourth body paragraph, or my fourth story, I think I'm going to put at the beginning, leading into... Yeah, I like that. Okay, so now that is my story. I've incorporated my story somewhere. It follows me, the same character, throughout the whole time. It follows the same conflict of gender roles in my household growing up. And it follows a timeline, basically, of me getting older, thinking about what I do now, what I do with my own kids that I don't have. But in this scenario, I do have. Lastly, beyond boundaries statement. Okay. A limitation, what can I can't do. I can't, I am not taken seriously as a woman in an authority role. Assumption, women make less informed decisions. Beyond boundaries, men and women are humans with the same brains and are capable of making the same decisions. Recognizing that so recognizing that is the boundary. So let me say that. We need to recognize that men and women are humans with the same brains. And then I guess what the future looks like, recognizing that will lead to a future with more innovation and efficient practices, because we will be getting the best skills from each person and not the ones that are expected of them. Okay, so now we need a beyond boundary statement, which is, I have a list here of ones we can assume. So let's just pick one. I've picked one. So like ignoring traditional gender roles will only lead to more innovation. So this is now a sentence that I got to stick somewhere in my TED Talk. I feel like it's going to fit really well in my 4th body paragraph. So I feel like it'll go good. Good. So, boom. Now I've included my body paragraphs, my story, my Beyond Boundaries statement. And it's just long. Look at that. Some of you might be like, why do I have to make it so long? Why is it like this? You have to speak between 5 and 10 minutes. And we can time it right now. So give me 13 seconds. Oh, wait, no, because we didn't write a 3rd body paragraph. So we're not going to time it right now. But this is the easiest way to get to that 5 minutes. And I feel like what I have written here is about 6.5. Yeah. So this is why I've made this video, because a common piece of advice I'm going to give a lot of you is make it longer, please. Strengthen your analysis. Give me that real world connection. I didn't get a real world connection. I am hoping this uploads well. I'm going to send this to the front desk so that they can send it to every single one of you, along with this that I've written here on video. Same thing with some like evidence incorporators, along with some like generic topic sentence ones as well, because I know we were struggling with topic sentences as well. So I hope this video was helpful. I'm sorry it was so long, but it's the fact that this video was 50 minutes is why I cannot work with each student individually one-on-one. I hope in the next class to work with each student one-on-one on their first body paragraph so that they can apply it to other body paragraphs. But this will be a resource to each and every single one of my students. All right, thank you.